What's up, guys? Ratty here from Street Seekers, and we are back with episode 3 of the Link Up. And I'm here with Victor today with his R34 GTR V-Spec 1. A little backstory behind how me and Victor connected. On my first year of creating Street Seeker, I did like a cars and coffee meet for the first time. I think it was a day prior. I found Victor's social. The first thing that caught my attention was he had the Nismo 350, and the one thing that really caught my attention was that I saw the power folding mirrors, the JDM power folding mirrors. So I think I messaged you through your Instagram, and I was just questioning you about the mirrors.
Yes.
It was like the following day we had the cars and coffee, and I didn't expect to see you there. I was just
You were nearby.
Yeah.
I came by.
So then after I was just hanging out with some of the guys, and I looked over at the entrance of the lot, and I see his 350Z pulling into the meet. I was like, oh, I recognize that car. So he pulls up, he parks, I directly walk towards him. I'm gonna introduce myself. I went about checking out his car and just being amazed about the power folding mirrors because I've never seen those in person for the first time. So to see it in here and, witness it, it was cool. But, to fast forward things, Victor, you usually like to feel up the meats before you pull this thing out, right?
I usually use the 350Z as a feeler, and if it's a chill meat, nothing crazy, then I'll go and pull this one out.
Yeah, so that's what pretty much happened. He walked up to me and he said, you know what? The meat seems chill. Everyone's kind of cool and just vibing, I'm going to pull out my GTR. And at that moment, I was just like, what? You got a GTR? You know what I mean? And little did I know it was this GTR. Like from where it is now to when I first saw it, definitely much different. But yeah, like let the viewers know, like from the beginning when you got the car, like how did it look like at the time?
So I picked this up from an auction in 2018 October. Back then, obviously it didn't look like this. It didn't have any of the stripes. The wheels were actually bronze colored. The rest of the stuff, the S2 bumper, the Nismo side skirts, those were all present with the car. And so over the years, I brought the wheels back to like the original color, so they're instead of the bronze, they're the actual white. So back in 2001, they released these as that color, so I restored them back. The hood, which is a genuine R-Tune hood, during the time when I saw Ratty at the meet, it had a Cybon style, like raw carbon hood, and at that time that was just like a stopgap for me. And then obviously the high risers, and also the Nismo S2 suspension, so a little lower on the height, just enough for functionality. And then obviously a really good detail, because cars from Japan, they get acid rain stains all over the car. So this has been 6 years in the making, and where it sits now has been, it's still a dream. Still a dream for me.
It was crazy because like I noticed the LMGT wheels.
Yep.
But these are actually the magnesium LMGTs. LMGT ones or?
No, so they're by their own. They're only made for the R33, R34 during that time by Nismo.
Yeah.
So they were 19 by 10 plus 20 squares. So they were literally for GTR fitment. They only released them for a couple years, so they're really rare and they're actually really expensive. Back then, they're about, I think, $1,100, $1,200 each.
Damn.
So 99 money, that was quite a lot of money.
That's amazing. So right now, like, because the GTR market is actually like gone through the roof, obviously for you bought it, what, 6 years ago?
6 years ago.
So you lucked out and you got it in the prime price range, eh?
Yeah,
So,
at that time, nobody would have thought, because again, GTRs were available for UK, Australia, and in Canada, obviously, in the later years. So the prices didn't really rise that much. And in 2018, if you look at the auction prices, and even for sale prices, you started seeing them creep up just ever so slightly. And so at that time, I was like, hey, you know what? Dump everything I got, get on the ramen train, and buy one of these.
Definitely. So like, tell me a little bit about how'd you find this on the listing? What was the story behind that?
So back then, auction houses were a little more easygoing. They had a lot of third-party sites that you can log in as a member and then kind of go through the auction sheets. You get decent photos and a good Gaussian grading sheets. They were a little more truthful back then, so every little, dents, scratches, any rust would show up on these. And so a lot of times you find like R grade, so they could be minor accidents. They could just be somebody replaced the panel and they count it as an R grade. So I just scrolled through every time, see one, and then I found this, which was a 3.5. So like a middle of the range interior B. So it's just got a bit of wear, but not like brand new, not super worn. And I gave it a try on this. Now, it's really simple. You do need to find an importer for this because they need to get access to the auction house.
Yeah.
So you tell them, what your maximum bid is, or if you want an on-site inspection for it, to kind of look over the car. And then you tell them what your max bid, you can put a deposit down, and then that's away you go.
Nice. And did you have anybody in Japan to look at it for you before, or was it all done through just an importer?
I had my friend who he lives here. He works for trading. G Trading is his company name.
Oh, okay.
So we talked for a long time. Buying trying to win an auction, a GTR from the auctions. So you do need him to get access to the auction house, be able to arrange shipping, and deport certificate, export certificate essentially,
Yeah.
to get it out of Japan. So that stuff you do need a little help. Once it gets here, pretty much you could do it yourself, getting the import process, hiring a broker, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So at first I thought it was really, really daunting. I was like, oh, this is gonna be paperwork on paper. It's actually not as bad as everybody thinks it is. A little bit of stress, obviously, because when it's on the boat, you're like, I hope the boat don't sink.
Yeah. Seriously.
But it gets here, it gets on a trailer, and you just see what you just bought, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, I can even imagine how you felt when you went to go pick it up.
Yeah.
That's a crazy feeling because obviously, like the R34 GTR is like most like car enthusiasts' dream car, at least one of their dream cars, you know? So like to be able to have that experience of you like saying, today's the day I'm gonna go pick up my car. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now it's a lot harder for people to say that, just to even buy a 34 in general.
Yeah.
But even then, it's 6 years. It's still a surreal experience to have this car and be able to enjoy and share with everybody that I meet and greet essentially.
Definitely. I've known you for what, 2-3 years now?
About
Yeah.
probably just a little
And
bit
every
more.
time you pull it up to me, I still get the shock value. I'm like, damn, this thing is crazy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I know this car has a ton of Nismo goodies. So what does it got? Let the viewer know.
So obviously from just exterior wise, you have the R-Tune hood, the S-Tune bumper. It's got the S-Tune skirt extension. So you'll see probably above the wheels, there's little pieces that go on the fenders. They're more for Japan Shaken, but more of a value to kind of push the wheels out a little more. Got a Nismo intercooler in the front that you'll see, the side skirt, rear spats. And then we go to the back, we'll have the Nismo GT500 LED tail lights. And we have the Nismo carbon fiber diffuser fins. So they're full carbon fins that are goes right through the diffuser actually. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But obviously the LMGT wheels. That's for kind of exterior wise, and then the Nismo stripe. Interior wise, we have the Nismo speedometer, the Nismo MFD, Nismo pedal set. And then on the Nissan optional part wise, we have these side shoulder, well not, they're like knee brace essentially. So they keep the knees kind of more closer. It's a Nissan optional part.
Yeah.
And then the Nismo GT500 urethane shift knob. Yeah.
GT500. You know, it's got to be the Le Mans style. You know?
Yeah. So the rubber actually is good because the ones that people get, the titanium ones, in the summer heat, like now if I get in and try to shift it, you can't even hold it.
Yeah, it's super hot.
Exactly. So it's more functional and it still suits the interior a little bit better. And then we'll quickly go just kind of open the engine bay so you can kind of see kind of how crazy it gets. It gets a little more crazy in the engine a bit.
Oh man.
Fun things about this R-Tune hood. So I left the underside, carbon. So when you pop it up, you can kind of have a showpiece.
Yeah.
It's even got a cool piece in here. There's actually a Nismo serial number in it.
Crazy. That's that certification right there, you know?
Yeah. So we got a mine strut bar, titanium strut bar, which is it's over the top.
Oh yeah.
Nismo intake piping kit, intercooler piping kit, the intercooler as I said, and then the Nismo radiator and the air ducts.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
The previous owner for this, so a lot of this stuff, people will ask, if I did all this stuff, and no, a lot of the stuff the previous owner has done it.
Yeah.
So like the aero kit, the wheels, they all came. The only thing I've really done, the big ticket item, was this hood. This hood was probably the single most expensive part I've ever bought.
Would you consider it your prized possession piece?
Yes. I can buy a car with this. I can buy a car with this, and but it really just adds that finishing touch. This hood actually, I didn't get it till early last year. And this was actually the final piece before I was able to put the Nismo livery on. Yeah. So without the hood, this livery would not have done. This is literally the last big ticket and dream item that I've always wanted. This is kind of the 90s, as I always say, the Gran Turismo, the red R-Tune, car that's always been in that game. This is actually the look that I was kind of going after. Amazing, man. This car is just so nostalgic and brings me back to when I was younger playing Gran Turismo and be able to just witness it and stand beside it, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, oh, fuck, it's crazy. The goal for this car has always been to have it stuck in a certain time period, and right now, as it stands, this is pretty much final. Like, this is as... you don't want to go crazier? Nope. The white wheels back in 2018 was already kind of a weird, I think bronze looks a little more, that tuner look, and I was like, well, Nismo did it white, I have to do white as well, and I can tell you, black car with a white wheel is the worst combination to try to keep this car clean ever. This is probably the only time you'll see it clean. The moment I drive, it'll be dusty.
But man, it's amazing because like you guys are pretty far away from the camera to see, but his paint is like crazy good. Like, and this is just factory paint. You know what I mean? Like, there's no like nothing's redone, nothing.
The only thing that's redone obviously is the hood, the
Yeah.
bumper, and the trunk's been repainted, but the doors, fenders, all of it is still original paint for this car.
Damn, that's crazy. That black just shines like something. And I've always told you every time we talk, and I'm like, yo, your black looks amazing. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I want my black to look like on the Z. You know what I mean? And my Z is not even nowhere near to that right now. You know what I mean? But
oh, you'll get there. This is a lot of painstaking garage just working on it.
Seriously, but no, that's crazy. Since owning the vehicle, anything memorable that you've done with it, or a moment that kind of like highlighted this car for you?
More of a funny highlight for me is changing the turbos on this car.
Oh yeah?
This has made lots of memories. I've done the term blood, sweat, and tears went into that whole right side of that engine bay for turbo swapping.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's that was probably the most memorable because I'll never forget doing all the bolts and actually some of the bolts were so hard to get. I actually went to Japan during that timing. I went to Japan for an ISMO festival and they had a Tone booth there and they had all these specialized tools. And I was like, oh, that's why they can do it in Japan, because they got all these little tiny little wrenches. They got a little wrench with like a very short, but it can rotate.
Yeah.
To get to the really tight location. It was great. And that's, for me, it was just like that memory of actually doing, because I was like, oh no, this is gonna be an absolute pain. The car's never gonna work. That was probably the most, to be honest, most memorable. But in all hindsight of that, it's just meeting anybody and everyone that loves these type of cars.
Yeah.
I was, before 2018, every time I see a GTR, I'd freak out and I do the same thing that people still do when they see this car, and then I understand in their shoes kind of what they're seeing as well. And for me, I just want to share as much as I can to everybody.
Exactly. That's the thing, right? Like, even for myself, like when I drive my Z around and I go to meets and stuff like that, people are like just like wowed as well, right, when they see my car. But I understand the feeling of like, to you it's just your car, and you're just showing up to it somewhere. Exactly. So it's like, to you, it's not like a crazy feeling. It's just like you're just embracing the excitement from people seeing a car, right?
Yes.
So
like your Z, you don't see anybody that has a full kit like what you have, and it's super unique. Most people do builds that are very kind of short. Yours has been in the years in the making as well. So
yeah, definitely.
Every time you add one little part, it's just that much more special.
I know, and this year was the tilt-up hub.
Oh.
And an RD wheel.
Hey, that wheel makes all the difference.
Yeah, a huge difference. Just drives so much different with the wheel now.
Yeah.
For everyone that's like actually wondering like how this car drives, when you first got the car and first sat in it, went for a drive, like what was your impression? Like, what did you think? Did you think it was gonna be what you expected it to be, or beyond that?
So first, before I even was able to drive this thing, my first experience was trying to learn how to manual in this car. I learned manual in this car. After I got learning how to shift gears and constantly drive without stalling, as what people always say, these things drive like video games. That's actually not a joke. These cars, when you turn a corner, the car just moves with you. There's no hesitation. There's no delay. Whatever your right foot, left foot, and your hands do, the car will do exactly what you want. Again, it's almost driving like a video controller. You just turn a corner and there's no, you throw it into a corner, you're like, shit, this is way too fast. Press the gas, because the car will literally correct itself and pull you out of it.
No way.
Any of the roundabouts, you're going way too quickly and you're like, you kind of feel like the car's kind of just sort of, a little bit plowing. Press the gas, the back loads, and it just shoots you wherever you want it to go. And it's,
damn.
It used to have Bilstein suspension, which for Japan, smooth roads, it was okay. For here, it's a little bit hard. I since returned them back to the Nismo S-Tunes, and they're so much more compliant. Like, it handles the back roads. You'll see later on in some of the videos, you'll see the car just, it takes up the bumps, it just absorbs it. And that's depending what you want for a back road type of car. And this is kind of what I have built for it. It's just kind of, just have fun on the weekend and just go through back. Not necessarily track days for this thing, just be able to just unwind and just, go through all the corners.
Just enjoy your day off with your car,
Exactly. But if anybody's ever had a chance to get to sit in it or even ride, it really blows your experience on what this thing can do. And when set up correctly too, it makes my 350Z feel literally like a boat.
Damn.
This car's heavy. This is not a light car, but it really carries its weight. And that's why
this car is longer than 352.
Yes, it's longer, it's heavy, it's got an iron block, it's got all-wheel drive. For it to be able to carry that weight, and just obviously you kind of sometimes feel the weight, but most of the time it's hidden almost. It's almost like what the video games are always raved about. It's just, that's literally in real life is essentially what it is.
Yeah. No, that's amazing to hear. This car is pretty much labeled what it's supposed to do, you know?
And yeah, and that's why I intend, like, this is not a collector grade car. It's got mileage in it,
Yeah.
but it's the previous owner in Japan maintained it like crazy. So I've been able to experience, you know, a worry-free ownership, and it's just been turnkey. I never have to worry about whether or not the car's gonna go, it's gonna break. Turnkey, and I drive.
For like the servicing, are you using any specific oils, brands, like
So
Motul or anything?
no, well, the specific oil stuff like the Getrag transmission, I use a Toyota V160, which is what it's meant for. But the LSD, like the rear diff, the front diff, they're all Motul oil. Engine oil, I just use regular Pennzoil. I use 540 for this.
Yeah.
A little bit thin, but for this, I don't really go crazy with the. It's very mildly. It's almost stock at this point, so
Okay.
I'm not too worried about having really thick oil.
Yeah.
And it's, again, as I've done about 12,000 kilometers in the ownership now, and it's been, I said, worry-free. The engine, I've done the valve covers, the cams, they look super clean. Again, it's just a nice 1999 good sports car from this end.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely a legendary car, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Victor has told me before, as a GTR owner, you get asked some repetitive questions. So what are some of those questions that you get asked? Or what are some of the silly questions that you're kind of like, you chuckle at, you know what I mean? You're like, oh.
So a lot of the funny questions I always get asked, and it's absolutely hilarious. So on my license plate here, I have 99 V-Spec. I always get asked, what year is this? And if I say it's a GTR, they'll ask me if it's a V-Spec, and it's, yes, it's a V-Spec. And
Yeah.
the plate for me at this point, I've now known that nobody reads the license plate. So
Yeah.
I could put, you know, something else on here and nobody would ever bat an eye on it. So I get asked those questions almost on a daily. It's okay. I don't mind it. But it's just, I always get a chuckle inside my head. Or my friends close by,
Yeah.
they hear those questions. They're like, did they not see it?
I know, they don't
Like,
read the
no, they
license
did,
plate.
unfortunately. Again, the whole car is so big. Like, it's just so much to take in.
Yeah.
You don't notice the little plate there.
Exactly.
So.
They're not even worried about that.
No, they're not worried about what
They
it
just
says on
wanna
the
see
plate.
the whole car. They're like, forget the plate. I want to see this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's amazing, yo. You said like this is kind of like final form.
Yes.
Do you feel like there's like a one missing piece out of it that you love to acquire for it? If you had the opportunity to acquire, would you? Is there something that you would like to have to add to this car?
In true honesty, there's things
'Cause
that always,
Yeah.
if
'cause-
money was no option, sure, you know, I've always debated maybe the Z-Tune fenders, but then every time I look at this, it's just, sometimes it just looks good, nice and smooth. So in terms of really what I need,
Yeah.
no, actually, I've actually got to where I'm pretty happy. The only next thing I really do want to do though is the interior.
Interior.
The exterior is all nicely done up, and then you look inside interior, it's still that same gray interior fabric. It's not a Series 2, it's a Series 1. So Series 1 got the gray seats. Series 2 got the black seats. So they looked a little more modern.
Yeah.
So what I want to do with the interior is actually, I want to do what the M-Specs had, which is a leather interior.
Oh,
so
yeah.
leather interior, suede on the roof, but nothing crazy. I'm thinking just kind of a dark colored leather, just to do it, and then door cards and all that. But maybe the dash, but that's down the road. That's a lot of work to pull the dash out.
Yeah. That's good to know. Well, at least you're pretty much at its final form.
Yeah, it's just, I'm pretty happy with what this is, and you know, again, it's literally my die-cast 1-to-1 scale,
Yeah.
compared to the one at home.
Amazing, bro. And the engine is kind of it's just stock, right? Like that's nothing.
It's pretty much a stock.
nothing-
It's been overhauled in Japan, so they literally pulled the motor out and did just a full bottom end kind of cleanup maintenance.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. They did it. I do have contact with the owner. Didn't really tell me too much, but he did just a kind of a nice $10,000 refresh. So it's good.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. For the viewers that are like curious, I'm pretty curious as well. Like, how's the the power band on this car? Like, where do you feel most of the power at which RPMs? Like how does this motor feel when you're driving it? Like,
So I have an N1 ball bearing turbos on it, so they spool around 3,500 RPM. So they're still kind of an old school turbo. The way it's tuned right now, I have pretty much flat torque all the way throughout the rev range, and then the power is actually really linear. It goes all the way up to about 7,800 RPM, and then it just kind of flats right at 8,000. So it's a really interesting, because it just keeps building. The torque just keeps pulling. There's no dips. It just keeps pulling, and then the power just keeps climbing right to the top. So it gets more fun as you keep going up the revs.
Yeah.
And then you can start hearing the RB. But in terms of like, it's not instant response. You're not going to
Okay.
get that from like a GR Corolla that, you know, you press on the gas and it just goes.
yeah.
It's got a bit of that delay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's more of a build-up rather than just
Yeah,
like,
it's more of a build-up, and it's actually not bad, because in the city driving, you know, under 3,000 RPM, you can just kind of, it's very super friendly. It doesn't really build any boost, and then when you need to get on it, just a couple gears down and you're gone.
Yeah. So with that being said, this must be kind of fuel efficient then.
Fuel efficient? Yeah, there's no, on this car, they didn't put anything in the computer that shows you what the trip computer is, how many liters you're doing.
No.
It does none of that. All it has on the VFD is boost, how much power you're putting in the front diff, and oil pressure and exhaust temps. So it has nothing related. I tried looking through all the screens, see if there's anything that shows, maybe I can fuel efficiently drive. No, this thing is not fuel efficient at all.
And obviously the screen has a G-force meter.
Yep, it has a
Do you
G-force
find
meter.
yourself using it often, or?
I do, but it just makes me drive really erratically and aggressive, so I try not to just see that screen, because I'm like, ooh, let me try and get like half a G and just changing my lane.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, I tend to not to use that screen. Sometimes I like to just nice drive through and
Yeah, that's true. Last final question. I like to ask this to all the drivers. If money wasn't an issue and you had an opportunity to, like, I wouldn't say you sell the car, but in a situation where you're like, okay, I'm gonna sell my car and get something new, but it's gonna be like your ultimate dream car, like what would be the replacement of this car?
So my ultimate replacement for this car actually would be a GT4 RS from Porsche. That car is kind of the next step up in like performance. The engine's screaming at 9,000 RPM, and just the driving time. That car is probably, before it came out, is now my all-time goal car. But with the way the prices are, probably not going to happen. I'm pretty happy with this for now. If those prices came down and are very, or this rose up in value,
Yeah.
I would definitely want an 4RS.
Well, isn't the GT4 RS still cheaper than the GT3 RS?
No, they're about almost same, I think.
Almost
They're within
similar?
about $300,000 to $400,000, depending on how specced out it is.
No way.
And actually, another car that I was really thinking, it's more like a second tier, would be the Aston Martin DBS. Which would, not the new one, the one from like James Bond.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't expect that one.
That's an old man car.
I didn't expect that
By the time
one.
I can buy that car, I think I'm going to be way older and my taste would have changed from this.
Yeah.
That just having a V12, again, there's no V12s anymore, so being able to own a V12 before it fully disappears is something I truly would like to experience.
Definitely. V12s are amazing engines.
Yeah.
I remember when I worked at Mercedes-Benz and having the chance to jump in those V12 Benz and just drive them out the dealership or around the dealership was just like feeling that engine roar was just insane.
Super
you know?
smooth, and it just...
Oh, it's amazing. All right, well, this wraps up the episode 3. Thank you again, Victor, for your time, giving the viewers the chance to see your car up close. It's always been a great time seeing this car. I hope you guys, the viewer, enjoyed seeing this car through the screen, I guess. But, you know, like, if you are a local in Ontario, Canada, and you get the chance to, like, go to one of those boba meets or something, you might catch Victor there, you know, and have the chance to see the R34 there. So, but this wraps up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see what we feature for episode 4. The season's kind of closing up. We have maybe till like the end of October where everyone's driving their cars still. So I'm definitely gonna try to like reach out to some people and see if they're willing to do a feature on the link up within that time frame. You guys will only know unless you guys subscribe to the channel. So do that, hit that subscribe button, like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in episode 4. All right, peace.